And I'm not giving up, I'm not giving up, no, not me. Even if nobody else believes, I'm not going down that easily. So don't give up on me.
Hey everyone, are you rad for Christ? You fired up for Jesus? Welcome back to another episode of Radical Christianity, the show that highlights God in action. I am Drew, your host, and it's so wonderful you joined us today. Well, have you heard about the latest uproar? Apparently, Hollywood and the media are on a mission to pit Christians against each other with this whole Christian nationalism debate. Can you believe it? It's like they think our unity is a threat to democracy or something. You know, Candace Owens hit the nail on the head when she said they're treating Christianity like it's the same as white supremacy. I mean, really? Last time I checked, loving Jesus didn't come with a free membership to a supremacist club. Maybe I missed that memo, huh? And did you hear about poor Justin Bieber? Hollywood's raising eyebrows because he is started attending church. Can you imagine that? Hollywood, the land of glitz, glamour, and nonstop parties, suddenly scratching their heads over a pop star finding Jesus. It's like they're saying, no, Justin, you can't sing about love unless it's about secular love. But seriously, folks, we Christians need to stop taking our hands off the wheel. As Christians, we need to not let the enemy control the social narrative. The media has been used to chip away at Christ's influence over our youth for more than half a century. Some of you might remember that the Bible used to be taught in school before lawsuits in the early 60s redefined separation of church and state. The enemy went after praying in schools with attacks on Christianity, and now going after the church with this Christian nationalism buzz. I guess loving your country and loving Jesus at the same time is just too much for some folks to handle. And speaking of handling things, let's talk about spiritual warfare. Justin's pastor asked for prayers for him and Haley, and then Haley's dad chimed in. It's like a family prayer chain gone public. Can't a guy and his wife get some peace without the paparazzi turning it into a headline? Oh wait, we're doing that, aren't we? Okay, anyway, but you know what? Through all this craziness, Candace Owens reminds us to pray for one another, to support each other in our faith. Because, let's face it, when Christians are labeled evil, something's fishy. And it's not just Friday's Lenten fish fry. So, folks, let's unite in prayer, in love, and in laughter. Because if we can't laugh at the absurdity of it all, we might as well just cry. And hey, laughter is good medicine, right? So let's keep our faith strong and our hearts light. And remember, Hollywood may have its dramas, but we have the ultimate director on our side. Okay, that's it for now. So tell me, are you rad for Christ? You fired up for Jesus? All right. This next guest is going to be a lot of fun. This is a good friend of mine, and he is got a heart for Jesus and a heart to serve other churches. So let's have a warm welcome for Rob Cravy. Okay, sit down. Okay, Rob.
Hello, Drew.
Welcome to Radical Christianity.
Thanks for having me. This is really neat.
This is cool. I mean, we've got a little bit to know each other pretty good so far, so it's kind of cool. It's like I'm used to having strangers be interviewed, you know what I mean? So it's nice when someone either comes back and I've known them, or you know what I mean, somebody that I actually know. So it's
someone who's seen the pictures on your phone. That's how close we are. Pretty close. We're like this. Yeah.
So you are at ESA Love Inc., right? And before we go into explain what that is, let's talk about how you met Jesus.
Wonderful question. So raised in the church, whole life, Presbyterian, and to the point where standing on the stage, reading your verses in order to get your red letter edition Bible kind of childhood. Right? I call it the postcard childhood because Christmas, postcards are amazing, and our Christian family was amazing on photo. But in the background, of course, is all the chaos and whatnot. So I grew up knowing who Christ was.
I was going to say it's very Norman Rockwell is what you're trying to say.
100%. You can see it, right? It was so cool. Grew up knowing Christ, memorizing everything, knowing who he was. Wasn't until I was in the military. On my way home, my second child was about to be born. And then he really met me to the point of, okay, and now it's time to put all of that into practice. And that's how I met Jesus.
Awesome. So you were like on the bus? Were you coming home, or were you in between?
I was driving home from Bremerton, Washington, because my son was about to be born. Mm-hmm. And I was coming over the top of Oregon, and he and I had a wonderful conversation in the car. So.
What were the highlights of that conversation?
So not to go into too much depth, not that we couldn't on television, but the highlights of those conversations were you're going to be a pastor of mine one day. Like that's what you're ultimately going to do, and in the meantime, grow. Okay, and so I spent the next 25 years now, growing. And here we are today. Not pastoring a church full time, but helping churches help people, which is really where he's called me to be today at Love Inc.
Yeah. So let's explain a little bit more detail what ESA, Love Inc. I mean, are they the same organization now? Or?
Same organization. Yeah. Evangelicals for Social Action, Love in the Name of Christ. Been around 40 years here in Fresno. Alan Doswald, our founder, started it when he was just a young buck and decided he wanted to help take over the world. And he did. He did his part. Over 40 ministries have come out of ESA Love Inc. over these years that have impacted not just our city, but the entire valley. And so here I am, 18 months in, and I'm springboarding from that platform. And now, listening to the Lord and saying, okay, where do you want us to go from here? Mm-hmm. So that we can expand that ministry and keep doing what we do.
I need to get Alan on here, if for no other reason, so I have an excuse to show the Minutemen clip from the Gong Show.
Totally. Him and
Mike Reinhold.
Mike Reinhold, yeah. Doing the whole.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I actually think we have that video somewhere.
Well, it's on YouTube.
Oh, is it on YouTube?
Yeah, actually, it's a short story. Is when I met with Alan, he's the one that told me about it. Okay. Like Mike Reinhold never told me about it. Alan told me about it, and so I went and found somebody who had that on VHS, dropped it to digital, gave Alan a CD, gave Reinhold a CD, and
posted it,
and then posted it on YouTube.
How cool are you? That's awesome. And you're really close to.
Reinhold, Mike Reinhold, yeah. He was my youth pastor, and I spent, a couple days a week hanging out with him after school. So
very cool. Yeah. So having Alan on the show would be a true benefit. You may have to have different filters, just global filters, but yeah, it's always a lot of fun. So the encouraging side of that is the relationships that Alan has built with the whole city and all of the churches, even if it is only by name sometimes, is still enough for us not to be a cold phone call. So when we call the church, it's we know who Love Inc. is. Yeah, we know who ESA is. And so it's very much an easy, warm handoff.
Now, was ESA and Love Inc. always the same company, or was it two separate companies before?
Always the same company, two separate names. So ESA is what Alan started, and then Love in the Name of Christ is a national affiliate organization. About 4 years later, Alan added that to the ministry that they were already doing because they went hand in hand. So he just made the name ESA/Love in the Name of Christ, and here we are today. There's a lot of Love Incs, 115 of them across the country, that are just called Love Inc. And so Love Inc. is just one piece of what we do. We do so much more for the church than what a affiliate Love Inc. does. And that's why we keep the ESA. So
let's not dig into the website yet. Well, I want to cover that.
No worries.
But what are some of the other things that you do to help churches? I mean, the churches know, but a lot of people who go to them probably don't.
Yeah, so we help churches help people through unity and connection. And when we really talk about unity within a community, it's a fragile unity. There's a lot of different denominations. There's a lot of different worship styles. There's a lot of different everything. It's church. That's what we do. And it's very radical. Who knew? The benefit of Love Inc. and ESA is that we're a neutral convener. When a group calls us, we're not running on denominational lines. We're not overly concerned about how they worship or how they pray. And so we can help bring people all into one room. The In-Town Prayer Summit we just had last Tuesday, 110 pastors and worship leaders or ministry leaders all in one room, all praying together for 4 hours, just building community. And we don't run that per se, but we're in the background, helping make sure all of that happens. We have an out-of-town prayer summit once a year as well up at Camp Sugar Pine. So if you aren't signed up for that, you need to get signed up September 16th and 17th of this year. And so we're going to be up there, again, 100-plus individuals hanging out for 2.5 days. All the connections.
September 16th and 17th. That's like what, the weekend right before, after the Ironman trip to Sugar Pine?
It's actually after. So Ironman happens that weekend with us. Friday, Saturday, and we do Sunday, Monday, Tuesday.
Oh, okay. So it's like...
So I'm there for the whole weekend. A very long weekend that weekend, yes. But it's great. So Ironman's there, and then we're there. And so some of the people who are already there just stay for the prayer summit.
Yeah.
So so that's the unity that we help build within the church. But then also we network all of the resources of the churches, kind of like what United Way does for the social service agencies. Mm-hmm. Imagine that, but for the church.
Okay.
Which again helps build unity and connection and keeps people in the loop.
Yeah.
Prayer clusters. We also have 14 prayer clusters, not we, but again, a neutral convener throughout the city. And so there's 14 prayer clusters, and all of the pastors, if you're listening, should be a part of a cluster because that's how you get connected. You're not alone in your ministry. There's a lot of other people out there praying and working with you. And so just having that connectivity, we help with that in the background as well.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah. That is all good stuff. Okay, so tell me a story of something that happened that God used you guys for that nobody else could have pulled off.
So we fall into a very unique niche, if you will, in ministry. Social service agencies are running full-time. There's over 600 of them in our county, and people are calling them for all kinds of resources continuously. And sometimes that leaves people in a social service cycle, always running, finding a list, getting on the next list for the next thing. But our why at ESA Love Inc. is to lead people to Jesus through the local church. So what we do is we funnel anyone who has brokenness or has need, and we connect them with the resources, but then we also connect them with the nearest geographical local church. So a really cool story is a lady contacts us and says, I need diapers and formula, I'm out, I have no one else to rely on. And her brokenness comes from lack of community. She just doesn't have anyone else to call. Someone gave her our phone number, and so she connects with us. The moment we connect with her, in the back of our minds, what we're saying is, okay, how do I leverage this so that she can meet Jesus? Because if she's not already part of a local church, then that's our why, like first and foremost. And now, okay, in the meantime, formula, diapers, all those things we can find on the social service level, but we really want to get her to that relationship. So we find the needs, and then we contact the nearest church, affiliate church of ours, and they reached out to her, connected her, not just with the items, but actually started walking with her, loving on her, encouraged her to come be part of their Bible study and come on Wednesday nights, take a break from the child and all those good things. And that's where the relationship gets built. That's where community gets built. So those are our love stories. Every phone call that we take, we know that it's not the need. I mean, the needs are important, but it's not the need that we're after. It's building that relationship. And to have churches come alongside us to leverage that, no one else in our community is thinking like we are the only entity that does that on a global scale. So if someone walks up to a church and knocks on the door and the door's closed, well, there's a sign on the door that says our church helps people in need through Love Inc. Network. And they can join right then, and we're still going to be able to reach out and connect with them even if our doors are closed.
Yeah, so have you put a QR code on every church yet?
Almost. Almost. We just had them made, and then I didn't like them, and I was like, oh, I hate that. You make something, you don't like it. Looks like a sheet of paper stuck to the window. So we're going to have those redone, but yes, and ironically, that's how it's always been. So for 40 years, all of the churches that are connected with Love Inc. do have a Love Inc. phone number in the window. And our phone number still works, so people can still call. We'll direct them.
People still call?
Yeah. Why, I don't know. They should just be texting us. But they do call, and then we redirect them to a text. So, keeps them all in the network. But being the only group that does that gives us a great strength, because that's our little cog in the wheel of the kingdom. And we don't want to grow the cog. We just want it to work so well and seamlessly that the church is able to absorb as many people as possible through those relationships. Because it is really difficult to call a church and say, hey, do you have the time to walk with someone who's not in your congregation?
Right.
And now we're saying, well, how many can you take? Mm-hmm. and Drew takes one, and we go, great, can you take another? Great, mm-hmm. Hey, one more? Hey, how many? And so building their teams up to be able to serve people is really where we spend a great deal of time.
Oh, that's cool. That's really important. You know what I mean? That's a very important thing that you're doing there. So when you engage a church, like for the first time, most likely at this point they've already heard of you.
True.
You know,
it's a warm handoff.
What do you do when a church is, we do not really want any more people?
Yeah, so I found that a couple of times, and it wasn't that they didn't want more people; it's that they really don't have the bandwidth outside of what they already do. So you and I have only so much we can do in a week. Mm-hmm. That's all we've got.
And we still do more than we should.
Right, yeah. Someone asked me the other day, how many hours do you work? I go, you don't want to know, because I think just thinking about work is work. Right? Mm-hmm. But when we have a church who's like that and says, hey, we say, great, we're still here to help you. As a matter of fact, if anyone within your congregation has a need, call us. So when someone is already a Christian, and now they're going through addiction, and now they're going through divorce, now they're going through all these things, we still have all the resources for the church. And even if they're not an affiliate of ours, we would want that church to contact us, because we've already done all the legwork, and we really are here to help the church help their people. So,
what about other ministries? I mean, there's like homeless, and there's all kinds of different. I mean, we just interviewed a lady that does a ministry through her church.
No, I was just sitting there thinking the horses need to be on the network. That's great. So all ministries, no matter what they do, are all cogs in the wheel, and if we don't know about them, then we have no way to get them resources. We have no way to connect people with them, and so the more people that are all connected together in a very loose, not a controlling way, but in a very loose way, the better it'll be for the whole kingdom.
Yeah, I like that. That's one of the things that we have a lot in common between our ministries, even though mine's a baby and yours is been around for a while. Is that we are both serving the greater body of ministries, but also we try to get people into the church so that they can find Jesus. You know what I mean? So that they can then turn around and serve,
Exactly. Yeah.
and so that's another thing that we have in common resource-wise, where it's like we do these things. So I love what you're doing. I mean, I've always been a fan of Love Inc. I've been aware of it for a very long time.
Sure.
But what you guys are doing is so needed, because there's not enough places that are connecting churches together. Right. There's not, and getting people into a church, that is something I've always been on fire about. And you now have a tool that you guys are working on, which I really want to highlight.
Cool,
that is basically makes me feel like I don't have to pursue the tool I was working on anymore, because you have developed one, and I can now just push people to your tool.
So to make it really complex, no, I'm just kidding. So the tool that we built is multi-layered intentionally. The church can use it just as themselves by putting in their own information, keeping us up to date on what they provide, food ministries, services, what days their services are, CR, all those cool things that the church does. But then clients that are out in the world can also text us or call us if they have a need, so that we can directly connect them to the nearest church. And then in the midst of all that, the entire body of Christ here in Fresno County now has a way to walk up to anyone in brokenness. If you're at a gas station, if you're find a homeless person that's behind an alleyway. If you see a mom and 5 kids falling apart at Target, you now have a way to walk up and go, are you part of the network? And to have that answer, I think, has really been a motivator for us, because we've never seen that, right? Like, there's nothing in Fresno. They've tried things like putting up signs saying, call this number if you need, or do this or do that. But the connectedness to the relationship is the most important piece. So for all of us, you and I included, to be able to take our phones and go, here, scan this QR code, join the network, and I know someone's going to reach out and love on you. I know that you're going to get the help that you need, because that's what we offer. Yeah. And that, across an entire county, that's how we're going to change the world. So.
Well, I would like to see, because the tool we're talking about is a website. It's
lovenet559.org.
lovenet559.org. Mm-hmm. So you got to go there and check out that website. Put your name in there. Don't be afraid. No one's going to be selling your information.
Yeah, actually, it doesn't even ask for information. You can go there. You can read all about it. If you're a church, you can sign up right on the homepage. If you're a service organization, you can sign up on the homepage. And the only reason we have you sign up is so that we can keep the data clean. But it's your data. You're in total control of that data. We don't call service organizations or churches and ask them to update it. It's all done. They have total control from the back end. That way it's live data and it's in real time. Clients, anyone across our county, can go onto that homepage and text the phone number or scan the QR code and immediately join the network themselves and seek out resources. And of course, we're going to get them right into the nearest local church. And it does have a couple of cool things for our whole community, like a volunteer page. So all of our affiliates can upload their own volunteer opportunities. This show is on our community calendar. So now you can see everything from the community calendar side as well as the volunteer side, all provided for by the affiliates that are connected to it. So it's not Love Inc. running it, it's the community utilizing the tool together.
Yeah, so. No, I think it's a brilliant tool. I mean, I got to see it and scrutinize it, and I still give you
cool feedback. It's all good
feedback, and and I think what you're doing with that is really cool. I think it is long overdue, and I imagine that over time you're going to have more ideas and more suggestions from different people, and it's going to end up just getting
whatever. Yeah.
It's going to morph into something even bigger and better. I do think that Love Inc. on the national scale needs to figure out how to make a national version of that, because there are people all over the country that are looking for churches. I have had plenty of requests come into this show, because viewers aren't just local.
Totally.
Come into this show saying, hey, you know what, can you help me find a church?
Perfect.
And that means I have to get on the phone,
do all the work.
Yeah, I initially do the Google search and that kind of thing, but then I make a phone call and talk to somebody at that church to see kind of where their attitudes are.
No, that's good. I think the connectedness that the tool brings to all of us is something unique. And even if we haven't had it in the past, it will be interesting to see how the Lord uses it moving forward. We planned on starting the year with 5 churches on the platform, ready to go, so that we could test everything. You know how beta testing is, because if it doesn't work well, it's beta. That's the good ones coming.
That's the excuse.
That's always the excuse. So we started January, and then by March, we're at 48 churches today that are already on in 3 months, and we're like, okay, now we're running at a speed that is a little bit busy, because people join, and then we want to meet with them personally so that we can walk them through the benefits, show them how to utilize it best. We had a church call the other day. It was so cool. They called and they said, we're connected and we're going to be going to do an outreach. And this is a Christian ministry, not a church specific. And they said, when we meet people in our outreach and we connect them to the network, what church will they be a part of if our home church isn't already on there? Oh, good question. Whichever church is nearest. And they said, well, tomorrow our church will be on there. Okay, great. So I mean, the usefulness when we're going door to door, or when we're doing a youth outreach, or when we're doing children's ministries, to be able to say, hey, if your family has needs, let us know. And then that way we can connect you to a network that will lead you right into the church.
Right. And those needs are defined any particular way, or just they're open to whatever?
It is really anything. Again, our why is to lead them to Christ. So if they don't know Jesus and they're not part of a church, any need is a need. If they have a need for diapers or formula, if they have a need for rent assistance, we don't provide any of these things. We deal in the social service networks that the county already has built. But it's building that relationship of, hey, we can literally get you here, and here, but really where you need to be is in a community of people who will love on you, and then lead you to Christ, and then walk with you through your life. Because we call it from trauma to transformation. You and I may not call a hotline today for help, because we have a community of people that we can rely on. But imagine someone's calling to say, I'm losing my apartment tomorrow. What do I do? And they don't have anyone else to call. And that's where the kingdom comes in.
Right.
And it's not about getting them housing. We can never build enough housing. There will never be enough food. You just can't scale those types of things. They never scale. But we can scale relationship. And the church is built for it. I mean, that's what Jesus called us to do, is be relational. So.
Yeah.
So I think in that format, we just start working on how we scale those relationships while meeting people's immediate needs, and then walk with them.
Okay, so people can find it again, lovenet559.org.
Correct.
And what do you need from the community other than just getting them to sign up?
Yeah, so I think just signing up for the network, number one, whether you're a social service agency, a church, a Christian ministry, a non-Christian ministry, our purpose of the network isn't to be controlling. Our purpose of the network is to have everyone on one platform, and we're not utilizing any one specific data. That's been the problem with a lot of community platforms. They come into an area and they want everyone to join, and then they use their data for fundraising, and they use their data for this, and that is not what we're doing. We're really doing it for connectivity.
Yeah, and there's no ads on there or
there's
anything.
No cost for the network. I mean, the Lord's already paid for it, so it's paid for. A gentleman from Ohio said God should never have to pay for things twice. So it's paid for. We're good to go. Now it's just a matter of connectivity and then usefulness. From the community side, influence. Although warm handoffs are nice, every person who knows about ESA Love Inc. should be telling their friends about the new platform of LoveNet 559 and get us in front of as many people as possible. We try to do 5 different churches a week to get in front of and just share with them the platform that we have available, and that's daunting. So
it sounds like 5 doesn't sound like a lot, but trust me, it's a lot.
It's a lot. Just getting a hold of 5 churches during the week, and then volunteerism. So on our side, now you can volunteer online. That's new, right? Come be part of a Christian organization that you can volunteer online. We'll train you in-house, and then whenever you have free time to work on the network, you're able to volunteer from a distance.
Yeah, that's actually, I told you that when I was in my, I guess, late 20s, that's how I met Alan.
I thought you were 20.
Oh, you're funny. You're so kind. That's how I met Alan, because I was trying to create a website for volunteers to connect called A Servant's Heart.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
I remember you telling me that.
And that's how I met Alan, and it's because of that. So it's like, so I think it's beautiful that is now a real thing that you guys are doing.
Yeah. That's
you know, and yeah.
High school, college students that need to be 18 years and above, by the way, who need volunteer hours and want to be able to do it online, interning, if you will, without calling it interning. We'd love to have you connect. So LoveNet 559.
Yeah, awesome. All right, well, we have reached our time, but you know what? Thank you so much, Rob. I'm proud to call you a friend. It is great what you're doing, and you know, I think Alan couldn't have handed off to a better person. And you know, we like to say here, you're definitely rad for Christ, definitely fired up for Jesus, and we love to see that here.
All right. Well, thank you for all that you do. It really is amazing. Thanks for letting us be on the show.
Anytime.
All right. Thanks.
It's housekeeping time. Yes, housekeeping is the awkward time where Drew sits here and talks to you about how Radical Christianity operates on donations from its viewers and other generous patrons. Yeah, so if you have $5, $10, $15, you know, something that is you can spare, something the Lord puts on your heart to give to us, we would really appreciate it. We could really use the funds. It would be a blessing for us. It would be a blessing for you. It would be a great way to serve the kingdom of God. So if you could partner with God and help this show move forward, it would be super awesome. There's many things we'd like to do, and we can't do it without your help. So if you just go to our website, radforchrist.com, and click the donate link at the top, that'll take you to the Mr. E Christian Media donation page. And Mr. E Christian Media is the overall nonprofit that we operate within, and it's a 501c3. That means that your donations are completely tax deductible. But if you just go to that link, on the donate link, and go to the donation page, you can see there's a little drop down to pick which project you'd like to donate to, and you can put in the value that you want. And we would really love it if you were a monthly donor. That would help us greatly if you would donate every month. That option is available there, or even just a one-time donation, whichever God is leading you to do, we could really use, and your funds will go to a great purpose. Also, if you do not have the money but you'd still like to help, then the way that you can do that would be to share the show. Tell people about it, post it on social media, share the link. You can, tell a friend, send an email to somebody about the show, make your sister sit down and watch it with you. Whatever it is that you think that you can do to help spread the word about the show, that would be fantastic. And if you can't even do that, or don't want to do that, or in addition to that, we really could use your prayer. So if you want to really help, if you can't donate money, if you can't share the show, you can pray. And we could really use your prayers. Pray for the show to get success. Pray for the show to have funding. Pray for our health, our safety, and for great guests, and reach more people. That's really what we're doing this for. We're trying to reach people and show them about the kingdom of God, what's going on, and basically let them know that Jesus loves them, and they need a relationship with Jesus. So, all that said, I want to thank you again for watching today, and on with the show. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited for this next guest, and you should be too. So let's have a huge, warm welcome for Ariel Lohuis. Welcome. Please sit down. Ariel, welcome to Radical Christianity.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Now, this is cool. So I'm excited to hear about your ministry, because horses are awesome, and what you're doing is definitely God's work. But before we get there, the way we do things is usually we start with testimony and how that leads into your ministry. Okay. So if you can start off by telling us how you met Jesus.
Yeah. Oh, man. Okay. You want like Cliff's Notes version, or because it's...
Well, the interview is about 25 minutes long.
Okay,
so.
Got it. So I grew up in a family that went to church. I grew up going to church, but we didn't necessarily, my family didn't live as the church, So we were there every Sunday, and but in my home, there was a lot of struggle with addiction and just a lot of brokenness that my dad in particular, but my parents just never really gave over to the Lord. And so there was a lot of struggle growing up, a lot of brokenness that I witnessed and was part of. And so what we saw on Sundays and what we lived during the week wasn't the same. And so I had a lot of opportunity to go in a direction that just wasn't a good direction. My mom worked nights to try to make sure we had what we needed, and my dad was not present, physically present, not mentally. And so there was...
You kind of did that, I was kind of wondering.
Yes, there was plenty of opportunity that me and my siblings could have had to just go our own way. But I also just grew up loving horses. We were in the LA area, that's where I grew up, and I'm not from like a horse family or anything, or just in a suburb in LA in a little house. And I just loved horses since I was born. It's like one of my first words. And so when I was 13, I started writing lessons. And then that was also the summer that I went to church camp. And that's when I accepted the Lord as my Savior. But to backtrack a little bit, I'd grown up in church. I knew all the right answers. Jesus died for my sins. You know, I'm a sinner. I need a Savior. I could say all those things. So when I was 9, I was like, oh yeah, I know Jesus. And I was like baptized and everything. And then, you know, years go by, you're in junior high, and you know, you start getting mixed up with certain people and certain influences, and I was all into like the emo thing and, you know, everything. I had all the hair colors, every hair color, chopped it all off, bleached my bangs, did the whole thing. And just, you know, it's just really dark. It's so dark, and it just draws you in. And I remember there was one day I was sitting there and I was like, not that I wasn't suicidal, but I had, you know, lots of friends who talked about that and was, you know, the music is just dark. And I remember sitting there one time thinking, like, if I died, I don't actually know what's going to happen. And it was just this feeling in the pit of my stomach. And so a few months later is when I went to church camp. It was the first day there. I don't even remember what he was preaching. I don't remember like what he was talking about. I just knew that I had that conviction in my heart, and I was just like sobbing. And you know, at the end of the service, they do the altar call, and I was too embarrassed because people from my church were there and they knew I was already saved. But my brother was also there. He was like 20, and I go up to him. You know, his 13-year-old sister is just bawling, and I'm like, how do I know if I'm actually saved? And he's like, oh, let's go pray. So we went and prayed, and that's when I accepted the Lord in my heart. I had my brother and his friend on each side of me. And I just describe it as like, for me, it was this feeling of like a light switch going off. And I knew, no doubt, that is when I had Jesus in my heart. That's when I made the decision. So that was my salvation. But things with my family were still crazy, you know. It just wasn't a good home situation. And a couple years later, we left the LA area, moved to the Valley, moved to Exeter. I'm from LA to Exeter.
That's a dramatic change.
It was a big change, yeah. I liked it. I got a horse out of the deal.
Was it a bribe or just a coincidence?
It was, I don't know if it was a bribe so much as, maybe it was a bribe, but it was like, it's going to be okay when you're going to get a horse. My sister went back to LA as soon as she could. She was 19 at the time, so it wasn't fun for her. But that horse and the place where I got to keep him was just like so essential, because we had moved for like a fresh start so that my parents could, like, my dad in particular, could try to get clean and move forward. And it didn't happen. But where I had my horse, it was owned by a former police officer. And, you know, they kind of have like spidey senses. And so I think he just knew that like I needed to be there. And so not only did I have my horse there, but he would just be like, especially over the summertime, said, you know what, just come spend the day here, work with my horses, just like, you know, hang out, do whatever you want with the horses. And he let me like work with all of his horses. He bred really nice horses. And I was 15, 16, I don't know what I was doing, but he'd be like, go take this horse and, you know, do such and such with it, with minimal instruction. And he just gave me the opportunity to just be there and try stuff and learn and grow. And, you know, God was just so gracious in that I had a place to be and to channel my energy and the thing that I loved and not get caught up in other stuff. I left out a really important person. Can't believe I left her out. I have to go back 2 years to when I started writing, taking lessons. My first writing instructor, her name is Jen. She's still around. She started teaching me, and then I started doing private writing lessons. We start out group, do private lessons with her. And then she would just like pick me up from the house and take me to the stable, and we'd do lessons and then just ride and go on trail rides and, you know, learn all the other stuff that you need to know about horses besides riding.
Like watch where you step.
Watch where you step. Watch where they step, you know, how to clean their hooves and all the stuff.
Be careful about walking behind him.
Yeah, she just took me under her wing and would pick me up and just keep me there. And it's like God had planted all of these really just selfless and caring adults who didn't know exactly what was going on, but just knew that I needed somebody and that I needed to be somewhere. And they just poured into me what they loved and what they knew. And that planted the desire in me to be able to do the same. Because, without the horses and without, where I had been riding and learning, I don't know what direction I would have taken. I had a secret boyfriend when I was a freshman in high school, and he wasn't a good influence. And if we hadn't have moved when we did, and, if I wasn't involved in the horse things, I don't know, might have been a teen mom or something. I don't know. And so I'm just thankful that God started that path for me way back then and used something that I loved already to draw me closer to him. And all of that ties into where I am now, obviously. So we moved to Exeter, went to high school. God provided me some really wonderful friends. My best friend who I'm still in contact with, even though we're in different states now. And then from there, I knew that I wanted to go to college. No one else in my family had gone. I was the first one. All of me and my siblings have degrees now, but I was the first one to go to a 4-year university. And I remember, telling my parents, I'm gonna go. And they were like, well, you could do, junior college first or something. And that's a wonderful path. There's nothing I'm saying against that, but I needed to get out. I knew I needed to go. And so I started praying about where to go, where God wanted me to go. And I don't really know, I had some great teachers and great influencers at my church when I was in high school who kind of led me on that path of laying it down for the Lord first and not just deciding this is where I want to go. And so I was, I had great leadership in praying about it first. And so I asked God, where do you want me to be? And my first choice would have been Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, because who doesn't want to go to college at the beach? And so I applied there, applied to Cal Poly Pomona, not UC Riverside, Cal Baptist in Riverside. And Fresno State was kind of my last choice. It was my backup school. But God just kept bringing it up. Every time I went to a college fair or something, it was the first booth I saw, whether I was, choosing to do that or not. And, I applied and everything. I got my letter a couple weeks later, and it was crazy. And so I remember one night I was trying to go to sleep, praying about it. God, I don't, where do you want me to go? I didn't get accepted to San Luis Obispo. And that was also, I think, divine intervention, because I would have been yep, I'm going there. I had gotten into Cal Poly Pomona, gotten into Cal Baptist, gotten into Fresno State. And so I was just trying to sleep one night, and I asked God, I'm where do you want me to go? What do you want me to do about this college thing? And it was one of the clearest communications that I've ever received from God. It was I don't normally, think of, God speaking to us so verbally, but it was just this this clarity in my mind of you're going to go to Fresno State. And it was peaceful. I had this great peace about it. And I was okay, that's what I'm going to do. And, started the process of getting there, doing all the financial aid stuff on my own, figuring out where I was going to live, all of that stuff. So I went there when I was fresh out of high school, moved to Fresno. And that's how I found my church. So I grew up going to missionary Baptist churches, which are, were small little churches all around. And I came up here to visit and went to Clovis Missionary Baptist, so that's my church now, and visited and just immediately felt at home. It was just immediately this is where I'm supposed to be. And they had a college ministry and everything. And so, yeah, I moved up, started college, didn't even have a car. Very thankful for the college ministry leaders who picked me up and brought me to church and would, take me to our Bible studies and stuff. And yeah, went to Fresno State. started out as an English major because I like to write, but like my heart was with the horses, and so I was like, of course I'm switching to animal science. Switched to animal science, was doing that, but I didn't have a very specific idea of what I was going to do with it afterwards. I just knew that I wanted to work with horses one way or another. And during college, so I didn't have a horse at the time. I couldn't bring a horse with me or anything. I wasn't riding for the first 2 years, and so it was a lot of letting go of what I loved to do, and a lot of just kind of laying it all down and just letting God decide where the path was going to go. And I feel like a lot of my story is a lot of that, of letting it go and just saying, God, however you want to use it and what you want to do is what I'm going to do. And it's hard. And so first 2 years of college didn't hardly have anything to do with horses, was just taking my animal science classes. And then I finally got plugged in with the horse unit and everything and started getting back into that world. And still wondering, I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with this, but I know that I love it and I'm going to figure it out. So fast forward to my 4th year at Fresno State. Took me 5 to graduate, so my 4th year. I'm getting close to the end there, and my pastor actually approaches me a Sunday morning, and he asks me, he goes, do you think you could do ministry with horses? And he knew that I was into animal science and horses and stuff, but I had never shared really that desire. And so tell me that's not God working. They had just moved out to an area in the country that was all set up for horses. And, just was like, hey, what can we do with this? And so we started talking, and it was like, yeah, I can do ministry with horses. Of course I want to do this. And it was we drove out there and looked at the property, and I just remember standing there being like, if I get to be involved in this, this is going to be just the hugest blessing. And so, yeah, that was the end of my 4th year of college. I interned at a children's home in Texarkana that summer, and then, which was an incredible experience because a lot of the kids that we work with are kids who could just come from really tough backgrounds. And then when I went back to school in the fall semester, one of my classmates asked me if I needed a horse. She just came up to me first day of classes back. She's like, do you need a horse? Showed me pictures, told me about him. And Labor Day of that year, she brought him up and we got started. We got our first horse. We started practicing with some of the kids from our church and building a plan of what the ranch could be, what it could look like, and how we were going to do it. And that was 2014, 2015, when we started walking into what this ministry is now.
Okay, so how would you describe your ministry in detail?
In detail. Okay, so we are a youth ranch ministry, but we operate on a weekly session model. A lot of youth ranches, people hear that and they think residential. But what we do is we have kids come for a session each week on a regular basis. And we use horses and horsemanship to share the healing and the hope that Jesus brings through our horses and through ranch life. And so Rapha comes from Jehovah Rapha, which means that God is my healer. And what we want to express is that ultimately God, our relationship with God is the healing of our soul, and then that will just spring up into the healing of the rest of the things that go on in our life. And our verse, we have a theme verse, it's Psalm 147:3. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. And we bring kids who want to be there, who love what we do, who love horses and love being outside, and use the opportunities that arise to just walk with them through life. And so whatever things that they're going through, whatever struggles they bring, whatever they want to talk about, we spend that time with them. We work with the horses. We have a verse each day, and we apply that to what we do with the horses and what they're going through. And so when the kids arrive, they all have a chore. They partake in caring for the stuff around the ranch, and it gives them, a sense of ownership and of responsibility and character. And then we have a verse that we introduce, and then we do the bulk of the session, which almost always involves horses. We have a couple other animals. There's chickens and goats, and there's always dogs around and stuff, because it's a ranch, But yeah, it's not riding lessons, so there is some riding involved, but they're not coming to like learn to ride. We use equine assisted learning, which I'm certified in. I've been trained in it. It's just using like natural ways that horses exist and function and the way that God created them to relate to life skills and relationships and everything that we go through in our day-to-day basis.
Well, that's cool. So I got two immediate questions. One, what are the age groups of children that come to the ranch? And then the second one is, how does somebody get their child into it?
Yeah, so our age range is about 6. Kind of depends on the kid, because you can have a young 6 or an old 6, but about 6 to 18. So that whole age range we work with. And then we take volunteers all the time, 18 and above, or even minors accompanied by their parents, guardians. 6 to 18, and then to get your child or a child involved, we have just a simple application process. So you email the ranch or call me and I'll get you the email, and then fill in the application and we'll look at it, and then we try to get the ball rolling on getting kids in the program.
All right, so do you have a website they go to? Or?
We have a Facebook page, and then there's a page on our church website, because we're directly associated as a ministry of our church. So there's a page on our church website.
Excellent. And that's the Clovis Mission?
Clovis Missionary Baptist. So it's cmbc.org. ClovisNBC.org
Okay, there we go.
is the church website, or Facebook/Rafa Ranch Ministries.
Okay. You guys got that? Right. All right, so we have a little bit more time here. So what are some of the things that you've seen that are really impactful stories since you've been doing this ministry?
Yeah. There's one kind of a funny story that sticks out of a little girl that I worked with a lot. We were doing a session where she's on the horse bareback, so no saddle or anything, and it's really it's the closeness and helping with focus, and one of the ways that I tie into how close we can be with God and feeling His leadership. And so she's we're going around and we're talking, and she goes, "It's kind of like that movie Avatar." And I was like, it's with the tail thing, and they can communicate, but you don't even know it. And I'm like, yeah. And we kind of talked about that a little more, and it's that's kind of how we can be with God. We can be that close with God to where it's we're paying attention and He's influencing us, and we have this completely unbroken relationship. And so I just thought that was really, really cool that she made that connection, and also kind of funny that she thought of that with the horse in the movie. There's another time we had a youth group come up, and we were doing it was like a 1-day kind of experience. And we were in our round pen with the horse doing one of the sessions that I do often to help illustrate how to choose Christ in a world where we feel like we're running in circles. And so this girl, I say little girl, she was preteen, not a little girl. And so she was doing this session, we call it Join Up, and it's just a really beautiful way to see the shift of trying to do things on our own and then turning into and choosing God instead and walking with Him. And she did that with the horse, and it's just a beautiful, every time it happens, it's just a beautiful moment. And she was just beaming, and she was like, "This is my dream come true." And so being able to be able to provide that for kids who have always wanted to do something with a horse, and also declare the truth of Jesus to them is just it's amazing.
That sounds pretty rewarding.
Yeah.
So is it mostly girls? Do you have little boys that come too?
No, we do have boys. So we started out with a lot of girls, because I think just girls tend to lean into horses more than boys do. But over the last 2 or 3 years, actually this past season, I've had all boys. But the last couple years, it's been a little more even between the boys and the girls.
Oh, that's interesting that
Yeah.
it shifted to all boys.
Yeah, it was weird. And I don't know if it, like...
Did you just exhaust the girl stock or something?
I guess. I don't know. I don't know if part of the way, like, with lockdowns and everything and people just, like, feeling so chaotic that, like, everybody started realizing this need for, like, connection and relationship, and if that played a role, or what, but I'm not complaining. I like working with them all.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. So, what is something that your ministry needs?
Well, nonprofits always need funding.
Yeah.
And also volunteers. So we've been super blessed with some incredible volunteers over the last couple of years, especially this past year. So I had my son last summer, and so my schedule is way different now. And so we had some amazing people step in and step up and just do a wonderful job helping to take care of the horses and stuff. Obviously, because running a ranch with horses and everything is so much more than just the hour and a half we spend with the kid. You know, horses are 24/7. You got to feed and take care of the property and all of that stuff. And so having people who have a servant's heart and that just love to serve and help things happen, because there's so much like tedious maintenance stuff, like yard stuff and cleaning stalls and making sure food is there and, you know, turning horses out if I can't be there because of something. And so volunteers who are committed and faithful is definitely always a need. And just, you know, monthly donors.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming around Radical Christianity and sharing about your ranch.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty awesome. You know, I mean, especially since, you know, it sounds like your church pretty much stepped up and said, "Hey, you know, let's make this happen."
Really, my church is amazing. I love my church. It's definitely my family. And when, you know, we started talking to them about this, it was immediately like, yeah, let's figure out how to do this. And they do a fundraiser every year for us that brings in a lot of the funding that helps us run. And just a lot of our volunteers come from our church, and it's amazing.
That's
Can't say
awesome.
enough good things about it.
Excellent. Well, I hope you don't run out of good things to say.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
And it's been a blessing. You know, what we like to say on this show is you're definitely rad for Christ, definitely fired up for Jesus, and we love to see that here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us again for another episode of Radical Christianity. We are so glad you decided to join us today. Hey, I hope you got something from the guests. If they touched your heart and you want to reach out to them, please do. If you are looking for connection, then you definitely need to go check out the LoveNet 559. If it's not from something from your area, then maybe you should reach out to your local Love Inc. and tell them they need something like that for them, for your area. Anyway, so if you are feeling the tug of Jesus on your heart, this is something that we do every episode. It's important that we talk to that person. I see you right there. No, seriously though, you are there. I know you're there, and you're feeling Jesus tug at your heart. You're feeling that pull. You're feeling that conviction in your heart that you need to have a relationship with Jesus Christ. Now, I know that sometimes that can be confusing. You're not so sure. Sometimes you want to jump on it. Sometimes you don't want to jump on it, but maybe you don't even know how to pray. So if you are of any of those convictions and you feel like it's time, it's really easy to do. You just talk to Jesus. You say, "Hey, Jesus, I need you. I am not doing this right on my own. I need you to come in and take over. Help me lead the life that you've designed me to lead. I don't want to do it my way. I want to do it your way. Your way is better than my way. I need your peace. I need your joy. Fill me with your love. Fill me with your spirit. Say something like that to Jesus. Speak from your heart. Just talk to him. Tell him what is on your heart, and, just encourage him to come into your heart and take over. And if you do that, you're going to be a part of the family of God. That means you're saved. It says in Romans 9 that if you believe that Jesus rose from the dead and that he is the Son of God, and you say with your mouth that he is Lord, you'll be saved. So, if you did do that while watching this show, it'd be awesome if you go to our website and let us know. We have a little Got Saved form on our website. If you fill out that form and let us know, we will be able to send you a Bible and a little gift, which we would love to do for you. Also, if you are on our website and you have a question or you have a prayer request, we have forms for that also. So if you have a question about the Bible or this show or anything at all, if you need help with your math homework, we'll try. So just hit us up and we would love to get back to you. And this is the most important part of all. And I want you to remember this, take it with you, and that is Jesus Christ loves you. And so do I. Thank you for watching Radical Christianity. We'll see you next week.
And I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up, no, not me. Even if nobody else believes, I'm not going down that easily. So don't give up on me.